As soon as I got a 3D printer, I became obsessed. What was that obsession? Printing game room decor. As you can see, I've made a little bit so far. Let's get this stuff hung up in the game room and make it look more awesome. So I found a person online who was making logos because I needed one just to go above the other 3D print I have over there. And then I saw they had a bunch of logos, and I mean a bunch. Game companies, games, systems, you name it. And you can see all here. There's just a ton of them. And I kind of lost count. And they're really nice prints. They're very clean. They came out nice. And for the most part, they're thick because you can stand them up on their own. You don't have to put them on the wall or anything like the other ones I own. So they just look awesome. And the variety was so incredible, and it made me realize how awesome game design was in terms of just what they were willing to do, colors and fonts and everything else. I just kept printing. I kept printing and printing and printing, and something that was supposed to be two or three quick logos became what you see on this desk here. And now we have to actually do something with them because I need to take a break from this. This has been my obsession for the better part of 2 weeks, and I need to get into printing other stuff and making other stuff and designing stuff. So I can't just keep doing this. I mean, if I had another 3D printer, sure, but I only got one. So let's take all these things and put them in the game room proper. Now, the whole thing started because of over here. Now, walk with me, I'll show you as we go through a quick tour of the game room by accident. I have these large prints I got from my friend CNC Games out in Sandusky, Ohio, and they are fantastic. And I realized that I wanted some kind of like, I guess, logos for the games to go there. So I found this and printed it out. And then I found this here. Well, I didn't find it. I made this one myself. Crazy. Not that difficult to make these things yourself, I found out. But either way, I then realized I could have all the different titles above them like this, and that would look even cooler. So I wanted these, and I found them, and it was great. But then you saw the rest of it. So the original idea is to kind of start here and work our way back with all those logos. Now, what do we put up here? Do we keep it all Nintendo? Do we mix it up? I don't know. This will be an interesting video, and it'll mostly be me talking over what we're doing because we're going to have to set up a tripod and let it rip. We have no idea how long it's going to take. We have so many things to hang that I'll tell you right now, I'll be using 3M command strips down here. I've used them for years, and for the most part, they work fine. Are they always perfect? No. But they've been a lot better than anything else I've tried down here. Trust me on that. They're especially fine as long as the thing you're putting up doesn't have any tension or pressure on it. But I use these things like crazy, and no, they're not paying me for that, but they should sponsor me, please. So this is going to take us a while to do. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show as we go around making this wall over here a lot cooler. Let's get started. So I didn't realize just how many prints I made, and what we did before we even started putting them up was we went to the couch and we kind of separated them by like company. So we put all the stuff that was either Nintendo or Nintendo related or Nintendo heavy on the couch, and we decided that those are the ones we're gonna try to fit on that wall. And then when we got all the Nintendo things like done, if we had extra ones, we put them elsewhere. But we're looking for like the same type of size and style in terms of like length and like depth and everything else, which they're all about the same depth for this wall because it was like more Nintendo related. And it works pretty well. We tried to alternate between systems, magazines, Nintendo ideas or IPs, and then like their own games. So like you see Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong, but you also see Club Nintendo and the Famicom Disk System and all that good stuff, and the Nintendo Power logo. And that was the idea there, alternate between a game and a system or some other kind of property. But we did start running out of those things, and eventually we started going towards the end here, which required us to get a little more creative in what I considered Nintendo. So Animal Crossing, obviously Nintendo. But then the next few up here that we had to use, because again, we wanted to get to the wall, not so much. So we ended up going with Secret of Mana and Capcom, oddly enough. And Capcom mainly because they were all over the NES and SNES. I mean, they were with other systems as well, but a lot of us grew up on Capcom games, specifically on those two systems, and Genesis a lot to an extent. But Capcom has always been a multi-platform system developer, but still a lot of NES memories. Over here on this wall, we started going with more of the arcade theme, and I ended up changing things out a fair amount because we're trying to decide how things are spaced and how they live. And at first, when we started the game room, we were worried about the walls being too busy. We're millennials, so we thought to ourselves we have to have minimalism, 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 and that wasn't the case. We started really enjoying just saturating everything in color and logos and design. I think it's a consequence of growing up in houses where the only wall colors you're allowed to have were white, and then as a millennial, the only wall color you're allowed to have was gray. So we just kind of kept going here, but eventually we do have to stop and kind of rearrange things because we also ran out of space over here, but we're leaving a lot of space floating, and that was one of the main issues. There's so much floating space over here, so you'll see me kind of pull things down, put things up, pull things down, put things up. Eventually, like I said, we got to the point where we were happy with what they looked like, and also trying to keep the theme too. That's one of the issues is we have a lot of arcade properties, and we kind of wanted to keep them grouped up together, but that wasn't going to be like always possible. So, we Had to go back a couple times and, okay, pull it off, start again. That's kind of what's so nice about the 3M strips. There's no damage if you do it right, and we were doing it pretty right here, so we had no issues just taking them down real quick. Sure, you waste a few strips here and there, but it ended up looking a lot better, and we just went back and really spaced it out first. A lot of stuff down here I tend to wing it, and if it is a larger project, I overplan, and then none of those plans ever come to fruition, or they just aren't needed. But with this one, I needed to have a mix of both, and I just didn't to start with, and that's why so many things had to kind of go back to the drawing board while we're doing this. It wasn't a difficult process, it was just time consuming. And honestly, the most time consuming part of it was probably putting the 3M strips on each and every sign. Most of these, with the exception of maybe one or two, just got one 3M strip. So one goes in the back, and then the other one goes to the wall. But you can put it all together and just stick it to the wall as one piece, which is what we do. And it just took a while to do that. So when you see us not on camera, we're sitting there peeling 3M strips over and over and over again. I guess they're called command strips. And that's kind of where we're at here. So we're finishing up on this wall slowly but surely. And the issue with the stuff I printed is I had a few oddballs, some smaller, some larger, and some that were more square in nature. These were all like, rectangular for lack of a better term. And so they kind of fit the theme. They were easy to place because rectangular, long running, easy stuff. But things like the Rareware logo and the Konami logo, along with some of the Genesis stuff or the Sega stuff, they're a lot more square in nature. And I'm glad we have this shot of us just sitting here looking at this. Yep, we're just sitting here staring. Look at that. Okay, so here we're over here. And the Battletoads we could have put elsewhere, but we decided to kind of just keep it where it was in the Sega door. And me and my wife went back and forth on this, and she said, no, 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 we have to have the Sega door. And I'm a huge Dreamcast fan, not a huge Genesis fan like she is, but I agree. We have to have the Sega door. Over here, I had a little bit of spacing, so the Konami and the Rare, which were the odd ones out, ended up going over here, which you can see better when you're down here, but not so much in this video. But either way, it just was kind of endless. The really odd one out was the Metal Gear Solid logo. I had no place to put it, and I was like desperate to find a place. And I eventually settled for over there, and that's about it. The Game Genie also gave us a hard time, but we found a place for it eventually. That was a lot of time to print all those things out. I think it was about 2 weeks, but let me tell you, from the angle I'm looking at right now, this looks phenomenal. Let's start over here, though, real quick. We have a few things to add to our Sega door, our Dreamcast, Panzer Dragoon, our Battletoads, and Ultra Beast. Those look great. Let's go over here next. A bunch of arcade classics and developers over here, some that are very well known, Namco, Taito, SNK. Some game systems over here, like the TurboGrafx 16, the Neo Geo, and the Virtual Boy, along with some other arcade stuff. We also finally found a home for Game Genie over here in the food area. But by far the coolest part down here has got to be this wall. And this whole project originally started because I wanted a Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3 logo for the NES area that I have right when you get down to the game room. And it just kind of ballooned into something crazy. And this isn't even all the ones I wanted to print. I don't have a second AMS unit, so I couldn't do the multicolor prints, only the ones that had 4 colors or less. So what you're seeing here is just a small amount of all the prints I want to do, but still, this whole border in the game room down here of 3D prints is phenomenal. It looks spectacular. I'm actually blown away by how nice it looks over here, and hopefully we'll get some panning shots. You can see the whole thing, but I'm standing about the halfway point of the basement, which again, I don't live in a mansion, and it's just incredible how nice this looks and how it really kind of ties the whole room together. I don't say that tongue in cheek. It really does kind of make more sense now. There's always something missing over there between the Bloodborne stuff and the Nintendo stuff and all the gaming stuff down here. And I think we now have the answer to that. And it was just a lot of 3D prints. 3D printers are a lot of fun, but the question I keep getting is, why don't you sell these? Well, first off, they're not my designs. They're not mine to sell in the first place, and trademarks and copyrights up the wazoo. I think the reason why the 3D printing community works so well is because, yes, there are people out there to make a profit, but in general, they don't sell other people's work, and I won't either. It's a code of guidelines and ethics that I just want to stick with, and I won't be selling any of these prints. But the cool thing is, if you get a 3D printer, most of these can be made very, very quickly and very easily, and thanks to the barrier of entry of 3D printing, it's cheaper than ever to have a bunch of cool custom game room decor. This is just the newest thing in addition to all the other cool stuff I printed for the game room, like masks and statues and all that good stuff. So no, I won't sell these, and I don't think you should. If it's someone else's design, you should probably credit them, especially if it's trademarked or copyrighted material. That'll get you in a lot of trouble. 3D printing sure has flourished a lot since I first saw people paying $2,000 for a MakerBot that made it look like it was extruding toothpaste onto a glass table. Now the amount of detail and the complexity of these prints is incredible. I'm really glad I got into it, even though it's taken over my life completely. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.